your phases of a patella tendon or Achilles tendon rehab. Like you said, people don't bridge that gap, so they might load and then they just go back to playing. Where like what phases would you go through?
Yeah, so if first thing, they come with a patellar tendon pain, I'd be like, well, how long have you had it? And if they're like, I've had it for a week, or a week, I'd probably start addressing ththings. But if they're like, I've only had it for like a day or two, well, just take it easy, common sense. You don't need anything elaborate or special. Just see if this clears up on its own, because usually it will. Like they have a tendinopathy continuum where they'll say first it's a reactive tendon when you first get tendon pain, which is like a red hot tendon, and it's really active. The activity within the tendon is very hot, so it's going to turn over fast, and you might relieve your pain in a few days or maybe a few weeks if you just use common sense, take it easy. Don't completely lay on the couch, but like still give it some load by walking around, maybe doing some light activities. But it's those people that have it for weeks or months where it's like, well, let's scrap everything and let's do an actual loading program. So stop jumping, stop playing sport, and let's address all the areas around. So I would do, in that case, I would say like a chronic longer term patellar tendinopathy is start loading with something slow, because tendons, when you load tendon fast, it stresses it more. You think of yanking on the tendon, and it gets yanked on much more when you move fast. And that's what's probably going to cause pain and kind of set you in this negative spiral of like pain, pain, go back. So take that away. And isometrics are huge, because if you hold an isometric, you're not getting that sharp pull on the tendon. You're still getting a pull, but you're not getting this fast, really long pull. And I would say if it's a patellar tendon, leg extension is like one of my favorites. They're a Spanish squat. But you want to do the exercise and feel your quadriceps get a massive burn and not feel too much discomfort in your tendon or in your joint. So I would do isometrics for a while, and I kind of have like functional benchmarks that I tell people they should be hitting. And it's more so like, if your patellar tendon has been hurting for a while, your quad is going to be super weak compared to the other side. Your quad's going to be smaller compared to the other side. So do isometrics until that kind of balances out. Because I think early on it's a brain shutting down the muscle, and that's what you want to get rid of. So isometrics until that kind of balances out, and then you want to think of bridging the gap. You want to slowly start to load the tendon in an up and down, like pulling and then relaxing, relaxing manner. And that's lifting. That's like doing a split squat or doing a squat, like a slow split squat, slow squat. Same thing. Train both sides. Try to get them to balance out, or try to get that weak leg up to par to the healthy leg. And then kind of once that happens, once you're decently strong with that, then you get into just look at what happens in basketball or whatever sport you're in. It's usually acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, jumping, landing, and grade that. So it's like it could be as simple as like jump at 25%.
Yeah.
You know? And then the thing with the tendon, the best thing with the tendon, because tendon pains suck and you feel helpless, is you wake up the next morning, and if you just walk around, go on some steps or something, you'll know if what you did yesterday was good or bad. So it's a delayed pain response. Because when you do an activity, tendon will warm up, and like you could have really bad tendon pain and do a 10-minute warm up of jogging and stuff and feel like $1 million. And then you go play basketball for 2 hours because you feel great. Wake up the next day, your knee's blown up. So I think kids have to use the delayed pain response. Just wake up the next day. How does my tendon feel? And then you look back at what you did yesterday, and it's like, okay, that was too much. Or if you feel fine, then it's like, I can keep pushing.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so easy, is you can progress based off of the pain responses. That's how you know if what you're doing is good or bad. So that's does that answer? It's just
100%, and not pain during. You're saying like 24 hours after, wake up the next day.
I still am a fan. I think there's both sides of some people are like softer and they should push through pain because they're so afraid of loading. But then some people push through pain too much, but you can always use the next day pain response, you know?
Right.
Like that soft person that's afraid of pushing into pain, you would have to assume they're not ever going to push themselves in training, and they wake up the next morning and they feel fine. They wake up the next morning and they feel fine. It's like, dude, we got to actually push through this thing. And so that's a person. I think there's two camps. There's a person that's so afraid of loading that maybe we need to push into some discomfort. And then you have the other camp that guy's pushing into discomfort way too much. Scale back, try to make everything, try to make all your exercises give a big hit to the muscle you're trying to work and not the tendon or the joint.
Yeah.
But it's always the next day pain response will tell you. And sometimes it's a 2-day pain response. So like I've blown up my Achilles. I sprained my ankle bad, and then I did 3 dunks one day. I hadn't dunked in a long time. And the next morning I wake up, I feel fine. And the next morning I wake up, my Achilles is blown up. It's red hot. So it was like a 2-day pain response. So it's almost like it's usually 24-hour pain response where you can see if the tendon feels good or bad. Sometimes it's 48 hours. And I think it's time of day. Basketball guys probably get that too. I dunked at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And the next morning, I don't think it was long enough. There was only like a 12-hour gap before I was like trying to measure, does my Achilles feel good or bad? I don't think it was enough time. But usually it's going to be next morning, always. Yeah. And then you just take that information. It's so simple. Take that information and then decide where to go from there. Either you keep pushing or you need to scale back. It's so simple. People will get fearful though when they get a blow up of pain, and they're like, "What do I do? I'm afraid of a rupture. Do I need to scrap everything?" And it's like, no. You're supposed to get flare-ups. Yeah. That means that you're pushing, like you're testing the waters. That's what you should be doing. Some people don't get flare-ups at all in their rehab, but a lot of people do, and don't panic. It's just it's par for the course of rehab.
Right.
Just take that information and be logical, and then be like, I gotta just take things easy for a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting that there's different camps on the during session pain. How much do you push into? Like, you know, as coaches, we don't do the same thing for us personally that what we give everybody else. I typically take the more conservative approach. Like you could feel 3 out of 10 pain. That's fine. Like, let's not go above that. For me personally, I push into pain. I search for it. And if pain lives in the brain, I think it just makes brain changes and it desensitizes that pain. So I feel like my pain goes away quicker if I go like, let me search for a 5, let me search for a 6 out of 10 pain. Now it's kind of a dangerous recommendation to give to one of my athletes because I know that the conservative approach does work, where we keep, like you said, let's get a big burn in that muscle. Let's get like 2, 3 out of 10 pain, nothing above that in the tendon. And then let's just monitor 24 hours after and just make sure that pain scale didn't elevate. That's the safer way. For me, I'm going all in, like, where is the pain? Let me find it. Let me go after it. And I just feel like it makes I don't know if it's making the changes to the tendon itself, but I think it desensitizes in the brain.
Yeah, that was the patellar rehab back in the day. I don't know if you saw that, the decline single leg squat, where they wanted everyone to push into, like, what was it, a 5 out of 10 pain?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And like every session. And I think they did it for a long period of time. I think the main issue with that study was, if you're going to do that every day, that's not fun. It's like you're pushing into pain every day and doing the same exercise. So I think it's like the behavior aspect. I would be so unexcited to keep doing that day after day.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I'm always thinking is, I know I give that recommendation of like the graded exposure, but I've had people where they have patellar tendon pain and it's a chronic thing, and they do like leg extension isos for a day, and they're cured.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, that's, again, the non-interventionalist. I'm like, you don't need this in-depth thing. You did enough to get out of pain, and now you can go play.
Yeah.
But that's not most cases. And I feel like your case, you're talking about your individual thing with the pain, and then some people are doing less. The one thing you never know if things worked or not, or if it was just a matter of time before you desensitize, before the structures would desensitize to pain. Mm-hmm. You never know, because that could be all it is. And you see that with different systems. They could do my system, and then they could go into PRI, and they could go into whatever else, RPR, whatever they want to do, and say it's been like 5 months, and they just started RPR, and they're like, dude, my tendon's better. I'm like, maybe it was just 5 months that it took to desensitize, and it wasn't the system.
Especially if it's soft exercise. Like, you just took away your intense plyometrics, and then whatever you did, you could eat a banana and go for a jog, and you'd be like, that's the thing.
Yeah.